What's up, guys? How are you? Waco here from Revolution in the Rake magazine. I kind of find it ironic that I started a magazine called Revolution when I consider the greatest revolutionary in the watch, media, and education game to be the guy sitting next to me. None other than Clymer, the founder of HODINKEE, and we have the great opportunity to catch up with him after the 10th year anniversary celebrations, which I was part of. Very thankfully. Thank you for Ben for that. But it was an incredible, moving, galvanizing, spiritual, and enlightening experience. I mean, tell me, what did you think about the 10th anniversary, first of all?
It was, first of all, thank you, Wei, for those incredibly kind words. I mean, I wouldn't be here without you, truly. The 10th anniversary celebration in New York was something that we had talked about for a long time. And we said, things have been so wonderful for us for the past few years. People have really responded so positively to what we've been doing on the edit side, on the commercial side. Let's give back. And so, 3 years ago, we did this crazy high-end collector's summit. Right. That was $3,500 per ticket. There were no sponsors. It was a crazy thing, but right. It was amazing because there was no brand influence at all. But still, the community at large said, oh, that kind of sucks. Like, you're doing all this great content, nobody gets to see it. And I agree, that kind of sucked. And you know what, and it is what it is. And so we said, HODINKEE has always been about democratizing the knowledge, yes. These crazy, luxurious, opulent things.
Yes.
We want to bring them to the masses.
And then, how did the whole journalism thing happen?
Yeah,
you went to journalism school in Columbia, right?
I did. Yeah, yes. I went to Columbia. Don't know how I got in there.
I know how you got in there.
I always liked to write.
Yes.
I always enjoyed it, and I always was a strong writer in school, etc.
Yes.
But I didn't think there was any money in it, frankly.
Right.
How could I make money as a writer? And at the time, I didn't really understand the fulfillment or the potential fulfillment of creative outlet. You know? So I knew that I could write. I liked it, so I started writing after the GQ story.
Yes.
I started writing for GQ. I started writing for the Financial Times, How to Spend It briefly, Forbes, publications like that. AskMen.com. Yeah, Mr. Porter for a little bit. Yeah. That was a little bit later, but yeah. So doing these men's lifestyle things.
Yes.
And I was like, shit, this is really fun.
Yes.
I applied to Columbia while I was still employed at UBS.
Right. I love the fact that you were like, okay, and now I'm starting to be a writer, but I want to really master this. And then you went to Columbia to get a journalism degree.
Look, the one thing I'll say about myself is that if I'm into something, I go fucking deep. I go hard on it.
See, I'm like you, but I'm a dilettante. I have no qualifications at all, which just pretty much explains why I have no idea what I'm doing. But okay, nonetheless.
But so I said, look, if I'm going to be in media, I want to, look, I'm a good writer. I've never been trained in any way. I don't understand how to really craft a story. Right. So I applied to Columbia Journalism School for a master's, got in, and did that for 2 years.
Right.
And at that time, HODINKEE was making, I don't know, $500 a month.
Right.
Really just passive income. And I got to Columbia and started to do proper journalism. I was a beat reporter in Brighton Beach for a while.
Really?
Yeah. While I was a student for the student newspaper.
Fantastic.
And that was a really different world.
Yes.
Highly different than what we're used to. Literally double homicide in Brighton Beach. Crazy stuff.
Right.
And so I started doing that, and I said, wow, writing is really fun. And ultimately, all I wanted from HODINKEE was the opportunity to go to journalism school.
Sure.
And I had gotten in there, I was like, HODINKEE is now a success. And I remember friends at the time like, we all kind of made fun of you for HODINKEE, but it got you into Columbia, so good on you.
Fantastic.
And that's kind of where I thought it would end.
Right.
And then when I got in there, I realized holy shit, I can't go to grad school and run HODINKEE. So I started hiring freelancers. So Jason Heaton, who's still with us, Blake Bettner, Eric Wind.
Yes.
John Reardon at the time was kind of in between things, and he came on, and that is kind of what made me realize what this could be, is a platform for other people. And then when I graduated from Columbia later on in 2012, we hired Stephen, who had actually done some freelancing for The Rake.
Yes.
As well
he's quite into tailoring.
He is, yeah, absolutely. And then,
exactly.
then Will Holloway, who I met at Columbia. He was in my digital media program there.
Ah, okay.
He was the editor-in-chief of an architecture magazine, actually.
Right.
And I said, hey man, I'm really busy. Can you edit this video for me that I had shot down in Buenos Aires with Jaeger? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he did such a better job than I could ever do. Just infinitely better.
Amazing.
I was like, fuck, this guy's good. And so now Will is the head of all of our content.
Ah, fantastic.
And so, Stephen and Will were the first two, and then some other folks joined.
Yes.
And then we kind of went off to the races.
So let's talk about the third thing that HODINKEE has achieved. And you were the first guys to go into e-commerce as well, and you were mentioning around 2012. Mm-hmm. I remember you and I had a very interesting train ride. I remember I had quite a lot of wine during lunch, but I think that was my own fault.
Your own
wine. I brought my own wine, exactly. And then we went to go visit the dial factory from Paddock, and then we took the train to Zurich, and we were having this conversation. And I think it was an important conversation to have because for such a long time, basically, luxury journalism and luxury brands have existed in this kind of slightly barbaric relationship, which is I advertise with you, and then you are now compelled to write about my product and write nicely about my
whether
product.
you like it or not.
Exactly.
Right.
And it was interesting, and I remember we were having this discussion, and the kind of conclusion we mutually came to was there has to be a better way than this. Right. And I think that we said, what we should do is start to sell things, but only sell things that we really believe in. Right. So then the communication, the editorial, everything is aligned by it's something that's very sincere. Right. And it also gives you the opportunity, and you said this, it gives you the opportunity to say no to advertising as well, because you're like, you know what, that brand, I'm sure it's great, but it's just not in alignment with what we want to do. Right. And for the first time, in the watch world, you had a guy who was a master of editorial who created such a singular voice and had gained the trust of millions of people around the world. Suddenly, he was also offering things to sale. Right. Tell me about that and what you started off with.
Sure. So we'd been doing pop-up shops at the Pop-Up Flea, which is kind of a menswear kind of thing here, like raw denim, et cetera. Right. In New York since probably 2011, probably the year before, and the number one request we would get from people online and offline was to sell things. Right? Nobody knew where to get a 5513 back then. Matt Bain is an amazing dealer, but he didn't really have a huge online presence. Eric Wynn was not a dealer. There wasn't that many places to get it.
And no one's going to be able to call up Davide Parmigiani in Italy.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And so they were like, hey, we want this stuff. Can you help us get it? And so I didn't really want to go into commerce in that way, selling watches, because just from a resource perspective, it was me. So I couldn't sell watches and write about watches.
Yes.
And so we said, hey, let's start with straps. And Jean-Paul, who made me straps as a collector. By collector, I had one watch. I had one vintage Rolex, but
that's why straps are really important.
Exactly.
You can change it up.
Exactly right. 5512, still have it. So he was making me straps, and all my friends would be like, "Shit, man! Like, where'd you get those? Those are sweet." So instead of ordering one, I ordered 30, and then put them online, and kind of the rest is history. And so we said, look, like let's. I knew how transactional our audience was. I could just tell. I could see how well the straps were doing.
Yes.
And so then we said, let's do a limited edition watch. And the first guy to say yes to that was Max Busser.
Fantastic.
It's Max. He gets it.
Which was particularly cool because I think that's the only limited edition he's ever done. Because he constantly turns down limited editions.
He does. Yeah. I mean, Max has a very clear vision of what he wants for his brand, and limited editions are not part of it. Right. And he said, look, like we can advertise with you, but we don't. Who cares? It's going to be $5,000, $10,000, and also like advertising. He doesn't really believe in. Right. But he's like, let's do a watch. And so the LM101, which was their smallest watch, I love what Max does, but it doesn't really fit my aesthetic so much. We said, let's do that. Simple tweak, make it a brown dial, steel case. Right. That's it.
Right. But still, I mean, you had to buy those watches, right?
Yeah.
So that's a fair amount of money out
Absolutely.
there. Right?
I mean, so that's, you guys know how this works. There was 10 watches. We paid basically 65% of the price. Right. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Right. So that was a huge risk on our
That's
part.
what I mean. I mean, were you like the day before? Were you like, hey,
I mean, I have the watch here. I mean, it was really, it was a little terrifying to put that kind of money out there. We had never spent anything like that. Right. So we bought the watches, and then they sold in 5 hours. And the fact that we could sell this watch, which is a crazy looking thing, of course. Crazy looking thing for $52,000, all full price, not one discount. In 5 hours, I was like, shit. Like, I knew we had this audience. Here's proof.
But that's the problem also, is there's so much of a perception, and a lot of this comes from the brands themselves, that watches are a commodity. Like when you always go to SIHH or Basel, they'll be like, this is our new product. Right. And I hate that word because it kind of references stocks of, vegetables. But watches are not product. They're art forms.
Absolutely, especially Max's watches.
Absolutely. So the point is that discounting sort of mentality shouldn't come even into consideration for something like this. And it's great to see that when you created your editions, there was never any sort of discussion about that whatsoever.
Even with our non-limited watches that we sell in e-commerce, there is not $1 of discount.
Fantastic.
And it's one of those things where it's like, imagine walking into Hermes and saying, I want a Birkin bag, and then saying, I want a 20 off. They would escort you out. Or Chanel, you want some shoes?
Or basically any shop, except for a watch shop.
Except for a watch. And so the fact that people assume to get a discount on Patek Philippe, on B&F, on Laurent Ferrier, and Lange, it just shouldn't be.
Yes.
And I think, if the pricing is correct from the brand perspective, then there's no need for that.
Absolutely. So what was the second one after that?
The second one, and this was one of the big breaks, was the Zenith El Primero.
Right.
And this watch is neat because the El Primero is an icon, obviously. Right. They really allowed us to make a new watch. So we've got new pushers, new dial, a whole bunch of tweaks that are really subtle. But really changed this watch. They make a 38mm El Primero, of course, so we use that case. But I didn't like the crown, I didn't like some of the hands, and so they really allowed us to design this.
Beautiful.
With them, of course, and super grateful for that.
But it was very interesting because remember we were having this conversation over the weekend, and I think one of the guys in the audience during my kind of collecting a panel discussion was asking, okay, related to limited editions, what's the philosophy there? And I think from my perspective, it's always been you got to extract something from the brand that the brand has, but maybe might not be able to see themselves. And I think that's what you did so successfully with this.
That's exactly right. And you know, Zenith is a wonderful brand. Obviously, the movement, the open arrow is an icon. They have so many wonderful designs that just haven't been kind of paid attention to.
Yes.
And this, even though this is an automatic movement or automatic watch, this dial is actually from a manually wound watch from a few years earlier. You know, with the telephone scale at 3 o'clock. Really just a very simple, elegant chronograph.
Right.
And so we did 25 of these pieces. Again, we had to buy them, which was terrifying. And we sold out those in about 30 minutes.
Wow,
which
amazing.
was crazy. We did this event over at the Cooper Classic Cars in the West Village and did it. And I was like, shit, like, you know, we're onto something. And then right after that, we went to Nomos. And Nomos, you know, Nomos is a fan favorite always. You know, so sold that very quickly. And then
Nomos also is a very good value proposition as well, correct?
Yes.
So what did those retail for?
I think it was $26.50.
And how many of those did you make?
We did 100 pieces of the Nomos, and what we did here, it was an existing watch. We killed the date. This watch had a date originally, just because people hate dates. I don't know why. You know, I honestly look. I
it's
don't
so
like
funny
dates
you say
either.
that. That's the first thing I do as well. It's just like
it's a surefire win. Kill the date.
Exactly.
And then we made it a chronometer, which is actually somewhat challenging to do to get all these movements certified, but before they were cased. And then we closed the case back to give it a thinner case profile.
Fantastic. I love the fact that you got them certified as chronometers as well.
Yeah,
very
we
cool.
did that with the Zenith as well.
Right.
And then the next watch that we did, and you know, the most important to me is the Vacheron.
Right.
And you know, this is I think a game-changing moment for us as a company, where we said, oh man, like, you know, this is such a beautiful watch. The Corne de Vache was already a beautiful watch in platinum and gold. And we went to them and said, hey, like, let's do our own edition in steel with pulsation dial.
Right.
And you know, through really years of conversations, we got this done. And this is so meaningful to me for many reasons. One of which is that the images that we used to promote this watch actually features my grandfather.
Amazing.
Yeah. So if you look at the introducing post of this, my grandfather, the guy that gave me the Omega.
Right.
He's in military garb, smoking a cigarette, and this watch is right next to it. So that was kind of a subtle homage to him.
That's incredible.
Which very few people know about.
Very cool.
And then of course, I mean, Vacheron is Vacheron, right? I mean, it's Holy Trinity.
And you got them to make you a watch, and it must have been so meaningful.
I mean, it was a dream, truly a dream.
Yes.
And you know, what's wonderful about this is that, you know, this was a controversial watch for sure. But I think what's amazing about it is if you look at what Vacheron has done with us since, I think that says everything, which is that they're a big advertiser in the magazine, big advertiser on the website. And by the way, we sell their watches online.
Fantastic.
So I think the response to what we did with this watch, I think, speaks for itself. And then, of course, this watch just sold at auction.
For a ton of money, incidentally.
At
the Phillips auction. Well, I should sort of mention also that the controversy around this watch is probably around the fact that it was so good, right? No, because to be fair, like I remember a lot of the comments was like, wow, Vacheron's just made the best watch, you know, in years, but they made it specifically in a limited edition for Ben. Yeah. But it was great also because Vacheron has this amazing tradition in steel chronographs, which you wanted to inject into this. And it was funny also because I remember when I showed you my yellow gold pièce unique Corne de Vache. I was working with the woman that designs the watches, and at some point we had a discussion about a steel watch with kind of an anthracite dial, and she was like, that's when they were working on your watch. She's like, may I steer you gently in another direction? So that's really cool, and it's amazing to see that the values of these watches have gone through the roof.
And that, look, I'm a collector, and like I've been a follower of the auctions from the beginning. Like I know how important value is, and I'm proud to say that all of our watches, literally all of them, including our swatches, sell for retail or above.
And then from there, do we go to the Skipper?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, actually, you know what? We go to Ressence first, which is a neat watch with Benoit, and then to the Skipper. And the Skipper is such a neat watch, and you know the original Skipper is a watch that I had lusted over for years. As soon as it was discovered, I wanted one. And then we came out with this with the help of Mr. Beaver, and it's just such a beautiful watch.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's one of those things that really took on a life of its own, and forever grateful because I think this is I wear this watch a ton. I really do.
That's an awesome watch. And it's funny because we were having that conversation last year, and I was such a big fan of this watch that it kind of like inspired our Blue Dreamer as well, which was our first foray into e-commerce.
Yep, definitely.
Amazing.
It's such a cool watch. It really is.
Bravo, man. That's fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely stunning. And then what do where do we go from the skipper?
From Hoyer, we go into Laurent Ferrier.
Yes.
You know, one of my favorite independents.
Tell me why you love Laurent Ferrier.
So, I mean, first of all, I love Laurent himself.
Yes.
You know, he's amazing.
He's
you
so
know,
charming.
the race car history is so cool.
Well, yeah, because he's a driver and he competed at Le Mans. But he also, it's funny because, and he's not a watchmaker. He was formerly working at Patek in the product department. But when you close your eyes and you imagine a Swiss watchmaker,
It's him.
You imagine Laurent Ferrier.
Even though he's not a watchmaker.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so a watch that I don't have here with me, but when I was first asked to be on the jury of the Grand Prix,
Yes.
I went over, I was in Geneva, obviously, and I was visiting their factory, and at the time it was, I think, a 6-person company.
Right.
I said, hey, would you make me a watch in steel?
Right.
And back then they weren't doing steel watches, so they made me a watch. So I've been a Laurent Ferrier
Is it a
owner.
micro rotor?
Yeah, exactly.
I got one too.
Yep, exactly. Laurent Ferrier owner for years,
Yes.
and really big believer. I wrote about them for GQ.
Yes.
I mean, like, who's writing about Laurent Ferrier for GQ,
No one.
you know?
Yeah.
And so when we did this watch, I travel a lot, just as you do, and we wanted to do a watch that spoke to the kind of the modern, jet set.
Yes.
And this watch to me is that. It is a travel watch in titanium, so super lightweight, super durable, but with a blue enamel dial.
Yes.
And
Well, I love the
sector.
fact that you've got gonfle enamel and titanium.
Exactly.
Like that contrast between ancient for the dial and incredibly contemporary.
Yep.
And grade 5, so it's polished as well.
Yep, absolutely. And so this watch to me is one of the chicest watches that we've ever done.
Extremely
Such an
cool.
elegant thing. Oh, and then so after we did our Laurent Ferrier, which was a $60,000 watch,
Right.
we went ahead and did this. Which is
that was cool.
$150 System 51
Right.
Swatch. I mean, look, Swatch is, as Mr. Beaver told us over the weekend, it's one of the most important brands there is. If
Absolutely.
not these guys helped save the Swiss watch
That's
industry.
right.
And so to be able to, again...
Actually saved the Swiss watch
They really did,
industry.
yeah. To give something back and say, look, this is a cool collectible watch at $150.
Right.
Self-winding. It's
Yes.
pretty cool. And then we did another one this year
Yes.
as well.
And how many of those did you do?
I don't remember the actual number. It wasn't a numbered edition. Several thousand.
Right.
Probably, I would say 5,000.
And I remember that what was really cool about that was that you saw the name HODINKEE in lights in Times
Square,
Square,
yeah.
right?
And Swatch has an amazing flagship in
Right.
Times Square.
Yes.
And they were gracious enough to put our name up there with theirs, and they did it again this year.
Fantastic.
And that was a really
That's gotta be
crazy
cool,
moment. That was
right?
a wild, really wild moment.
Amazing.
Yeah. Should we keep going through these?
Yeah, I think let's do the Gronenfeld and then let's do the Omega since it's so historically important.
The Gronenfeld is another watch. We believe in supporting and helping call attention to brands that are doing things the right way.
Yes.
So Laurent, as I said, I wrote about Laurent Ferrier for GQ.
Right.
They deserve the attention. We did it.
Yes.
And then we did a limited edition, of course. Nomos, MB&F. These guys deserve the world's attention.
Sure.
And Bart and Tim Gronenfeld, in my opinion, are among the best watchmakers in the world.
Yes.
And they're Dutch. They love beer. They're amazing dudes.
They're just great guys.
And this is a watch. This is the 1 Hertz. That is really, I think, the best example of what they do. It's a time-only watch with an 8-second repertoire. And people, Gary Getz, people who really know watches know how important this watch is, how special this watch is, but most people don't until you turn it over.
Yes.
They're like, holy shit, man, that's insane.
Yes.
And so what we did was we took a watch that they've been making. Normally there's a governor there at 9 o'clock for the repertoire. And we said, hey, can you close off the dial? And they were like, not really. They were like, we really can't. Because it's
It's elevated.
It's elevated
Yes,
into
exactly.
the dial. And they were like, we'd have to redesign that part of the movement.
Right.
And it would take too much time, it would cost too much money. I was like, well, what if we ordered 12? And I actually wanted to do 20, and they're like, we can't give you 20.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we just can't make that many. And so we said, look, if we do 12 of them, we change the dial, salmon color, et cetera. We did it as a limited edition. I'm proud to say these went quickly as well. And this is another watch. I mean, this is a $58,000 time-only watch in steel.
Yes.
And we sold them all in a day and a half. And it really is, it's a special watch.
Right.
And, I mean, just look at that thing. It's like the first time you look at a datograph movement.
It's awesome.
Same thing here.
Well, I love the fact that the thing that's so compelling about the datograph also is the architecture, but also the entry to German silver, and there you have steel. For the bridges and plates.
That's exactly right. And then of course the after the Vacheron or with the Vacheron, the most important limited edition to me is this, and this is our Omega H10 Speedmaster based on the 2998. This whole thing, HODINKEE is here because of a Speedmaster Mark 40 that my grandfather gave me, which I wore on Friday, for example, when I was speaking with Reynald.
Right. And I love the fact that of these editions, the first one that went to your mother.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so this, I'd been speaking to Reynald about a limited edition. He said, yeah, you guys have already done it. If we're going to do it, we have to do something really special.
Yes.
And this is not like Speedy Tuesday. There's not going to be another one of these. This is really the most and only fitting to 10 years of HODINKEE that you could possibly imagine. Right? Without the original Mark 40, there's no HODINKEE, there's no me, we wouldn't be here. And so we said, hey, let's work on something to celebrate that, and so we have this.
That's amazing.
And it's so emotional to see Omega, celebrate HODINKEE this way, and of course my grandfather, who's no longer with us.
Right.
it's really an emotional thing. And as you said, I gave the very first one to my mother this week.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic, man. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.